Welcome back to the HourTime podcast, the podcast for Watch Geeks by Watch Geeks. I am Watch Geek John Biggs.
I'm Watch Geek Victor Marks.
And I am Watch Geek Nicholas De Leon.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. So you guys have been doing these without me, which I'm very disturbed by. I see that as
we are too, actually.
I see that as sort of like a master and commander kind of like mutiny situation.
I think we've done an okay job. You know, everyone has missed you.
No,
everyone has missed
you went into the captain's quarters. We kept the sail rigging working. That's all.
All right.
Steer the ship straight. That's it.
I'll buy it. So let's start. I want to talk a little bit about DIY watchmaking. Now, Victor, you're a pro at this. You do all kinds of DIY stuff with your watches.
I mangle tons of watch movements. Yes.
Yeah. So what are your best practices? Let me tell a little story first. So I have that Tocina or whatever. Remember that
Ticino,
watch?
Yeah.
Ticino,
yeah.
Right. So I get this watch, and I figure, hey, it looks pretty rugged. I can wear it while building a little library with my daughter. I quickly discovered that this
is one of the little front door kind of front yard public libraries.
Yeah.
Take a book, leave a book thing.
Yeah, and it's not even like I'm like breaking any of this. I'm hammering some stuff in. I'm not doing that much, but it cracked. The crystal cracked. So I figured rather than like throwing it in the trash, I would buy new crystals. So I look at the crystal thing and I'm like, how do you put these things in? You have to get a crystal puller. You have to get a crystal press. So, all right, so I'll go get a crystal press. So I get a crystal press and a crystal puller, and then I order a crystal, and I begin my crystal press journey, and I immediately shatter the new crystal. So now I have 3 more crystals on the way. The thing that I'm curious about is, maybe should I just throw this watch away or send it to you, Victor, or send it to a lucky listener who wants to fix it? B, why is this so maddening and exhausting, and what's the best practice for putting a crystal into a watch? And C, am I stupid for doing this because there are people out there who can do a better job than me?
Well, I mean, C has never stopped us before, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's pretty true.
It's never prevented us from doing something completely dumb. There are people who totally could handle this better, hobbyists, whatever. It doesn't matter. There are people who have more practice than you and I, right?
Have you really done this thing?
I've put crystals in before, but there are a couple of different ways that crystals can attach to a watch. They're the acrylic ones that snap over. They're the sapphire ones that have a little nylon gasket that goes around them, and that gets compressed when you do the press. And there are ones that do that and then are held on with a bezel that presses on, like your Rolex style. There are ones where they don't have that at all, and it goes into the case. And so you have all these different ways of doing it. If the crystal is flat, then you use your crystal press, and you just want to make sure you're using the right sized tool that fits the size of crystal you have. Mm-hmm. Too small, and you're going to smash that thing by pushing through.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah. And it's just about, you want to make sure you have a fresh gasket, that the gasket isn't crushed, that it's not already compressed, and make sure that you take care of doing it. There are not a lot of tips for it.
Whoa. I have to be careful, and I have to be thoughtful about something that I have to do.
I guess. I don't know.
I would say that I replaced a few watch crystals last summer. There was one, what is it? The Seiko Samurai. I have a Seiko Samurai. It's kind of got like the Batman color scheme to it, the black and the blue. And in true Seiko fashion, the bezel was misaligned. So I took it off and wanted to fix it, and I was able to. But in the process, I replaced the Hardlex crystal with a sapphire. And I had never done anything like that before, but I will say that on YouTube, there are a million tutorial videos, so it can be done. But yeah, it wasn't.
Did you use new gaskets when you did it, though?
Excuse me?
You use new gaskets when you did that?
No, I just reused the same. I mean, I don't intend to go diving with this thing, to be honest. But yeah, I just reused the gasket. It went fine. I didn't.
You know what I hate? This might be just me, and you guys tell me if this is the case. I feel I don't want to watch YouTube videos on how to fix something.
True. I have no patience for that.
I think it's an age thing.
That might be an age thing. I was going to say, you guys are a few years older than me.
Yeah.
And to me, that is, second nature. It's like, how do you trim a cat's nails? I'm going to go on YouTube to look up how to do that.
It's
Yes.
but it drives me crazy because I'm looking at like I want to look at I want to see how to trim a cat's nails, and I want to just read a document that says, "Get the cat, cover it in peanut butter,
Sure.
and then I don't know."
Yeah, take out the flat file or whatever.
Profit.
I want the transcript with like the specific 30 seconds of video that I need to see to actually see this, because I want to suffer through someone's 15-minute YouTube thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds like an aging. I mean, I agree. There are some videos with perhaps too much exposition, but there's really no other way. Like, I would not have been able to follow like a text step by step, like a recipe to replace those crystals. Now, it took a few YouTube videos, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get. And it wasn't super hard. But yeah,
here's my next DIY thing. Right, I bought a Citizen Eco Drive off of eBay, and I did it because Paul Hubbard basically pushed me into it. And this one arrived with a broken stem. When you unscrew the crown comes off in your hand. And part of the stem's broken off into the crown. And so I have been... The watch guys will tell you that, like the watchmaker guys will tell you have a couple options. If there's a bit of it sticking out, you can try and grab it with pliers and unscrew it. But if it's not, then you got to either try and drill it out or lathe it out or something like that. I am using alum mixed in water, like as a acidic thing, to dissolve the carbon steel stem inside the stainless steel crown. And once I get that sucker out,
YouTube?
No, I did not. But as soon as that sucker's done, like completely corroding, then I will go ahead and thread in a new stem and have a working watch again.
See that? But where did you find this information? Did you watch?
No, some watchmaker forum.
I'm not going watchlover.org,
NAWCC or whatever. I'm not fooling around with YouTube for this. I got no time for that.
I was on the clocks subreddit the other day, and my hobby recently has been making fun of people on there because they basically post like a quartz clock from like Spencer's Gifts and say, "Hey, I found this in my grandma's house. Is it worth anything?"
I see.
Yeah.
And I usually say, and they were like, "Does anybody know what kind of clock this is?" I usually say it's round.
Yeah.
In this way,
I had a Seiko mantle clock like that someone gave me once. I gave that thing away fast.
Yeah, but my feeling in that case is like, A, I'm turning into my father, and B, that it's like, let's talk about clocks, not just like, hey, I found this clock somewhere. What I could,
how much money can I get for it?
And I got really pissy about that. I think it's just, I think it just might be the weather, and I think maybe it just doesn't matter ultimately.
Well, it's also, we've been more or less locked inside our homes for a year and change.
Yeah. But speaking of people getting really pissy, like there was this New York Times article about Biden's watch at the inauguration.
So what was Biden wearing? He was wearing a Jaeger LeCoultre Geo, one of those like super tourbillons, Geo tourbillon, right? $1 million.
I'm sure he has like a Cricket Volcan or something, but he was wearing a Datejust, stainless steel bracelet. It was a standard Jubilee bracelet kind of watch.
And it was his sons as well, his dead sons.
Yes.
So the important thing I think to understand is that he's a out of touch liberal slimeball,
elite slimeball,
who is wearing this watch just to spite the good men and women of places like Winslow, Arizona, and Madison, Wisconsin. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Akron, Ohio. Take a hike.
So
Cuyahoga County, is that what we're talking about now?
So can a politician wear a fancy watch?
Not without a snide New York Times article being written, apparently.
It was such a, like, there were two criticisms of it. One, like the kind of media criticism was, okay, we just got over the past 4 years of craziness, let's say. And now there's this article.
The resident of the executive mansion for the past 4 years also wore fancy watches, and no one said a thing.
Did he? Was he a watch guy? Was Trump a watch guy?
He had like a Vacheron, and he had a Rolex, and he had something else, I forget.
So there you go.
But like, why can't... Also, Biden is an older guy. He's not a kid. He's been making adult money for 50 years.
The accusation is that he's been in government and public service for the past 40 years, and therefore,
and you shouldn't be able to afford. Yeah, you shouldn't be able to afford.
Can't afford a
$7,000 Rolex.
Yeah,
now,
like that to me doesn't make sense. And I don't know why. I mean, I get where people is like, oh, it's a Rolex. How dare he? Maybe he should try to appear more common man. But like the facts are, that's like a $7,000 watch, and he's been making adult money for several decades. I think he can have one, and it's like not, he has a house, he has a car.
Yeah. And to be fair, let's see, I said Vacheron and some other things, but Trump is known for wearing a day date in yellow gold. So
he wasn't even so
if we're going to cast about Rolex accusations, we got to cast them everywhere, apparently.
Well, Trump was a man of the people, right? That was the truth. He's a man of the people, and you know what? He got lucky. He got lucky with all that stuff. Mm-hmm. He came from nothing here in New York, and I think Nicholas can attest to that.
Jamaica States, yeah, it's a beautiful part of Queens. Actually, not terrible.
He came out of the gutter, and he made it to the top. Whereas Biden was born with a silver spoon in his rectum, and that's the situation that we're dealing with. It's a terrible situation.
It was just interesting to see the reaction, like the informed
right.
or semi-informed. Yeah.
How dare a president not wear a Casio?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All right. What else we got here? We got so what happened with this Patek thing?
That was big news, and that happened literally, I believe, less than an hour before we recorded last week's episode. So by the time folks hear this, they've probably already digested it. But I believe Victor said he's got a hot take.
Right. They'd already digested it because this watch has not been available for years. It's the 5711 model, I believe, 5711 reference, and you could not get one from a dealer for love money or any other kind of favor you might try and do.
Bitcoin.
They just weren't available. Now I do know people that were able to purchase them, but paid inordinate amounts of money above retail. And you just can't get them. It's the favorite model of the Nautilus. Like it's when you think Nautilus, that's what that is. When you think Patek, you think that Nautilus, unless you're thinking some kind of fancy tourbillon thing, minute repeater, whatever. The problem is that their CEO, their leadership said, we are not increasing stainless steel production. We just don't care. And so they've discontinued this model, which is, like I say, the quintessential one. It's the one I really love. It's the one that you think of. And it's gone. And who knows? Maybe they're going to introduce a larger model, which I think would be useless and ugly and clunky, or they're just giving up on life. But it's a sincere regret.
So what this Nautilus is a beloved watch, right? Everybody loves the Nautilus.
It's the stainless steel with the blue dial with the horizontal stripes. It's
all over Instagram and Reddit. It is like I would call it one of the watches. Like you find people flaunting or like lusting over it.
Yeah. And they're killing the golden goose. They're killing the thing.
But wouldn't we argue that the entire Patek brand is the golden goose? I mean, like it would be the equivalent of like it's not the equivalent of Hublot like destroying the Big Bang, because the Big Bang is so imperative. It's so imperative that they sell that thing because they're not going to.
Right. But it's like Rolex has 4 or 5 different lines, right? They have the Oyster perpetual date. They have the Datejust. They have the Sub. They have the Daytona. And yes, they also have Yachtmaster. No one cares. But if they killed the Sub, this would be like them killing the Sub.
You think
they have these other? I think so.
I saw that comparison a lot, and that was kind of the first thought I had as well. It's like this is like
the flagship model.
Yeah, it's like Apple killing the iPhone. It's like, I don't know. That's kind of weird.
All right, I'll buy it. But I would. So I think my trouble with this whole the outrage, quote unquote, is that Patek is such a unique company in that sense. But I guess there is a situation where you could say that the Nautilus is like the Submariner for Rolex, whereas I would put Patek way higher than that, and I would assume that Patek could survive just given its fan base.
I don't think that they're not going to survive. Of course they're going to survive. I'm just disappointed.
It's not they didn't make you angry. They're just disappointed. You're just disappointed.
I would send them to their room without dinner.
Yeah, that sounds awful. What new watches have you guys been looking at?
Well, I have in my hands the new Vaer what is the D5 Arctic? It's a new diver from them. Just came out. We should have a review on the site. I don't know, sometime next week. It's a 39 mil, and as I've said in the past, I have pretty small wrists. I believe 6.5 inches. So it's 39 millimeters, perfect for me. It has a what else was it? Dome sapphire crystal. Victor and I were talking earlier today. Excuse me?
What movement runs that thing?
Some Miyota 9039, no date.
Yeah.
It is to me, it's $500. To me, the value proposition for this is quite strong because you basically get everything. Again, sapphire crystal domed, the good Miyota movement. And to me, as someone who almost exclusively had like Seiko's, that pricing tier, I know a lot of folks have complained about Seiko's sort of quality control over the year. This thing is like perfect. Everything aligns. There's no funny business. The only problem I have with it, really, the crown is not great. The crown, it doesn't really pop out. It just kind of like slunks out, if you will. And to thread it back in, it is maybe not gritty, but like there's almost like no feedback there. So you're kind of like, is it in? Is it in? I don't know. So that the crown is not great. Yeah, I guess. Crown is not great.
That's a different problem.
Yeah, no, but it's got kind of like a Fotina kind of vibe.
It's got a hacking seconds. It's a 9030.
Yeah. I think for like, a $500 dive watch that I think it kind of vaguely resembles a sub. I mean, I guess I know people are obsessed with that watch.
How's the loom? Is the loom all right?
The loom is fine. It's not great.
C3.
Yeah. It's fine. It is to me, it's like if you're debating between, and I know sizes are a thing, but like something like an SKX or even like a Turtle or like something in that kind of like pricing tier, like, baby's first, semi nice diver. Yeah. This is just the value here is it seems like a very strong package.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It looks really nice, actually.
The interesting thing for me about that is if you look at their whole line is sort of a mashup between Rolex and Omega. The dive watch that you're looking at has these twisted lugs like you'd find on an Omega with the sort of chamfered bezel that you'd find on the Rolex.
Yes, it is a little Franken watch.
It's a Omega. It's an Amex.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's what you get with a lot of these micro, but they're kind of like aspiring to a design.
On their field watches too, right? If you look at their field watches, it's a 36 millimeter or a 40 millimeter, and it's got what happens if an Explorer had babies with a Railmaster.
Yes, I see that right now. Yeah, that's fair to say. Is that bad?
No, it's not bad. It's just an observation.
Yeah.
But what I was asking you about earlier was the value prop, because you said for $500 this is great, and I agree it is. But I reviewed a couple of years ago a watch called a Phoibos PY007A that uses the 9050 Miyota movement, which is in the same family except the date function happens on it. Ceramic bezel insert, stainless steel case, sapphire crystal. So it's the same construction, the same everything, except it costs $299 instead of $500. So the question is, you could pay $300 and have a sub with the same Miyota movement, or you could pay $500.
It's a question. I didn't say this before. This is assembled in the United States. If that matters to you, obviously they're paying people wages, so that's something.
I mean, I think what we're arguing is that there's so similar to this like Tocino over here. It's got a manual wound chronograph movement, and I think it was like $200 or something like that. Is it worth? All things told, given like the branding, given the expense of it being a vaguely fancy watch, given the movement, etc., is it worth? Would you recommend to like your brother to buy it for $500? Would you say go buy it? Yeah, you.
Yes, I would. Yeah, I think this is a good automatic. It's like, I think this is a very, very competent, it looks nice. It wears great. I think if someone's like, hey, I have $500 for a watch, this is totally adequate.
And these buying recommendations, Nicholas, you're not privy and parcel to these long and out and exhausting discussions that watch people have. about what's worth buying versus what's not.
Well, that's a whole, I mean, especially given the week with some of the stock markets of what is value, what is worth. I mean, who knows?
Oh, well, that's a whole different question. I think we actually did a podcast about that. Why is a Patek worth more than a Vaer, and why is a Vaer worth more than a Seiko or a Dingo or whatever you want to talk about?
And especially to anyone on the street, they're not gonna, you could have like a king turtle, and they're like, oh, is that a Rolex? And you could be like, yeah, it is.
It is. It doesn't really matter. Ultimately, you don't need to know what it is, and just give me my Subway sandwich.
But if you're that person who's like, I want a nice watch, I want a real watch, I don't want to go down like the replica or homage kind of route. I don't know. For $500, I think there's a lot here. That if you're that person and that it even shows up on your radar,
there's a lot.
Yeah,
here.
I think
that's all you have to say. That's all you have to say. There's a lot here. It's very valuable. It's valuable to you because it has a certain je ne sais quoi. And if you like Nicholas' description, then it's going to be a nice watch for you. That's all I think the answer is.
Absolutely.
Don't ask me how we should get into like guitars too. That's a
we can do that.
That's a big market where we can all just kind of like talk out of our butts and be completely wrong about everything. Let's close this one up this week.
We're gonna.
You got a Nordgreen?
Yeah, I got a Nordgreen in here.
All right, talk to me about the Nordgreen.
Nordgreen makes a couple of different watches. The one that I got from them is a chronograph to register with a date.
Quartz?
Mecha quartz. Stainless steel bracelet. The case shape is a little bulbous. It's kind of like a frying pan that's got its edges or sides dished out, so it's very much like rounded. The subdials are dished down. They're cut down into the dial. And there's a lot right there. There's so much right there that they were awarded a Red Dot Design Award, the prestigious Red Dot, for their design. However, I sent you pictures of this thing before I requested it, John. I sent you a white dial and a blue dial.
Oh yeah, Nordgreen. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. You told me to go with the blue dial. I got it. It's completely illegible.
Oh
wow.
Oh,
I have regrets. I should have gone with the white dial because I'm
looking at it now.
The markers around the periphery are metal, and they only catch the light just right, so you can't actually see them. They just seem black like the rest of the blue dial. You can't see anything. The hands have no lume whatsoever. The hands are silver except for when they're blue with red tips for the chronographs. So the whole thing just kind of fades into the background, which is a shame because otherwise it's pretty comfortable.
Well, it's a stealth watch. I think you would call it a stealth watch. Yeah,
it's stealth. You can't see anything. And I'm cool with watches where you cannot see the time as a part of the ethos and the theme of the watch, like Moser. Moser makes a watch and they have no indices at all around the side of the dial.
Yeah.
But the dial is this beautiful fume blue, and the hands are polished gold and things like that. So you can still you can tell time, unless it's one of their sort of gimmick jokes where they sip a watch that has no hands.
Yeah, I should have been able to read what's actually happening. Yeah, I think that's the answer. I think that's really the answer. And I feel like you've been sold a bill of goods.
I've been hoodwinked.
That's the word of the day here at the HourTime podcast. Hoodwinking. I'm John Biggs.
I'm Victor Marks.
I'm Nicholas De Leon.
We shall hoodwink you next week. Hopefully I'll be on next week if you guys allow it. Thanks for listening.